Now to introduce today's commencement speaker, Thom Serafin. Mr. Serafin earned a bachelor's degree in communication and a master's degree in public affairs reporting from our university. As an undergraduate, he assisted his professor and mentor, future U.S. Senator Paul Simon, in launching the now renowned UIS Public Affairs Reporting Program. Thom built a successful career in network radio as a political legislative correspondent. He has advised numerous high-profile national and state policymakers. Mr. Serafin also served as press secretary for U.S. Senator Alan Dixon and U.S. Representative Dan Rostenkowski, and was the Illinois campaign manager for Senator Gary Hart's 1988 presidential bid. His broad insight into political and governmental arenas has placed him in great demand as a political analyst. He is regularly featured on national and Chicago television and radio programs. Thom is founder and president of Serafin and Associates, a leading Chicago communications, media relations, and public affairs firm. Mr. Serafin's advocacy work on behalf of UIS has been extensive. He has been chairman of the UIS Campus Alumni Advisory Board since 2006 and regularly offers his expertise to advance the mission of UIS. He also supports a scholarship for the PAR program. In 2010, Thom received the UIS William Winter Award for Outstanding Advocate Leadership. Thom is a UIS alum who exemplifies leadership lived. Please join me in welcoming our 2015 commencement speaker, Thom Serafin.
Good afternoon. When I was given the opportunity and the honor to speak here today, I asked some friends around the university, what should I talk about? The general consensus was just tell your own story. But then I thought, if I tell my whole story, I'll ruin my reputation. So I'm going to give it a shot. I considered where I would be standing then as I gave this address here in Abraham Lincoln's hometown. I thought perhaps I could glean some wisdom from Honest Abe. So I read up on Abraham Lincoln, and this quote just jumped out at me. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Well, that doesn't seem to be an option when you're invited to speak at such a wonderful celebration as this. So I will just have to take my chances. I haven't always followed that advice in my journey from the inner city of Milwaukee to founding my own communications firm here in Chicago. We do a booming business in crisis communications. Some people in the media call us spin doctors. And in a world where knowledge is power, I believe in knowing everything you talk about, but don't talk about everything you know. My good friend Gene Callahan taught me that a long time ago. But it is my privilege to share with you a little of what I've learned along the way as we celebrate the accomplishments that have earned you your seat here today. I am honored to share this stage with such distinguished university leaders. And as one of America's best colleges, it's no wonder that this university has been able to attract the excellent leadership represented here on this stage this afternoon. Over the past 4 years, Chancellor Susan Cook, through inspiring hands-on leadership, has dramatically increased resources for the university and has brought growth and diversity to our campus. Thank you, Chancellor. We also thank a big thank you and bid farewell to our current president, Robert Easter. He shepherded us through the good times, the bad times, and the great times, and the good times now. Dr. Easter's distinguished international career in the field of agriculture and animal sciences has been matched by his dedication in furthering the mission of our university. Please join me one more time in expressing gratitude to Dr. Easter. And very soon, Dr. Timothy Killeen will become our university's 20th president. Dr. Killeen earned his doctorate in atomic and molecular physics from the University College London at the tender age of 23. He's a leading researcher in geophysics and space sciences. In other words, he's a rocket scientist. So now we'll have the opportunity for this dynamic leader to propel us to new and uncharted realms. We're looking forward to it, Doctor. You are graduating today from the University of Illinois. Your degree is your ticket to get into almost any room in this country. But then it's up to you what happens. The world you are entering, and for some of you, re-entering, needs you to confront and heal the divisions that have become all too common in our public and private institutions. It is your fresh approach, your energy, and the special talents you each bring to the table that will shape the future for all of us. Our university's motto is leadership lived. UIS builds leaders, leadership lived. And now that you are graduating, you need to start living your leadership. Well, what does that really mean? In my life, leadership has been a personal mission built on one-to-one relationships. I come from a humble background, stumbling along the way. But each time I ventured into deep water, someone gave me a hand and helped me find my path. I am a product of Milwaukee's inner city. I attended 3 colleges before I found this institution. The first was Milwaukee Technical College, where I did not excel during my 4-month term. The administration suspended me for not attending classes. I wasn't really banned from the school, they just wouldn't readmit me. And that, my friends, is what people in my business call spin. Next, I thought I had found my true calling and entered St. Francis Seminary on Milwaukee's South Side. During my 18 months there, I was elected student body president, spending a lot of time asking challenging questions, demonstrating for the Open Housing Act for civil rights in Milwaukee and against the war at the time. According to some school officials, I was a disruptive influence to the larger community, language that was included in a letter to my parents when I was not so politely asked not to return. So by traditional standards, I was not a success in the seminary. But it was there that I developed the values that would define my life's journey: a passion for politics and community service, and a desire to take a stand for people, with people who are marginalized by their life circumstances. After the seminary, I relocated with my parents to Peoria and drove a truck while attending night classes at Illinois Central College. One of the lessons I learned is we never know who will see us, really see us along the way. And I count my blessings that my advisor at ICC at the time, Mrs. Vaughn Frisk, saw something in me. She encouraged me to take my 3 years of accumulated credits and pursue my education here. I was particularly impressed at the time when she told me the university was experimenting with a no grades policy, a pass-fail grading system. Remember that? That was very appealing to me, since I had always struggled in a world of standardized testing. Eventually, I would earn my bachelor's in communications and a minor in filmmaking. Again, I ran for student body president on the platform of love. I was young. That's right, love. My campaign literature simply said, vote for love, vote for Thom. I lost by a few votes, but the consolation prize was vice president, and that offered me a chance to stay active on issues affecting our school. When it came time to graduate, I was invited to say a few words, and afterwards found myself at the reception at the home of the university's president, Bob Spencer. I recall the president asking me, "So what are you going to do now, Thom?" I was bartending at the time. President Spencer was one of those persons, though, that did see me, actually saw me, and he'd offer me an opportunity right there on the spot. There was a new professor on campus, and he needed a Girl Friday, according to the president. You know, a right hand, an assistant, somebody to help him out. Did I want the job? The new professor was coming here to start a graduate journalism program. That man was Paul Simon, who would later become United States Senator Paul Simon and run for president in the late 80s. I was hired and assigned to work for Paul Simon, and for minimum wage, I ran his errands, wrote for him on his Olympia typewriter, and became totally immersed in his program in all its details, the public affairs reporting program. We have 17 graduates here today. For minimum wage, get this, I was graced with a wealth of wisdom from this storied and learned man in a role that literally changed my life. He eventually convinced me to pursue a master's in public affairs reporting, and as a PAR graduate student, I was scheduled to intern at the Capitol building. I worked under Bill Miller, an icon in Illinois news broadcasting circles, in the Capitol Information Bureau, now called the Illinois Radio Network. Here I was, a pretty good bartender and a marginal truck driver at best. But each day I'm mingling with the state's elite correspondents and public officials in the Capitol press room. You know, halfway through my internship, then Professor Simon decides to run for Congress. The university wisely selected Bill Miller to take over for Professor Simon. And nobody surprised me more than when Bill Miller recommended me for his job. Suddenly, a two-time college dropout was now the legislative correspondent for a network of 35 radio stations in Illinois. I left the world of reporting in '78 for campaign work, which gave me a different kind of front row seat to history. I've shared campaign offices with a young Rahm Emanuel, now the Chicago mayor, and Dave Wilhelm, who would go on to become Bill Clinton's '92 campaign manager and head of the Democratic National Party. I ran and worked on several history-making campaigns, including Dick Durbin's first run for Congress and Carol Moseley Brown's general election race to become the first female African-American senator. I was honored to serve as press secretary for U.S. Senator Alan J. Dixon. Learned a lot. And then under Congressman Dan Rostenkowski, I learned about spin control. He was a controversial but very large human being. I was the Illinois campaign manager for Senator Gary Hart's ill-fated run for president, which was derailed by his extracurricular adventures on a yacht named Monkey Business. And that's another story. I was privileged then later to accompany my old friend and mentor, Senator Simon, on a humanitarian mission to Cuba, where we had a 6-hour luncheon meeting with President Fidel Castro, just the four of us. A front row seat to history built on personal relationships, one at a time. President Easter mentioned the importance of relationships with humans. It's been almost 30 years since I opened my media and public affairs consulting firm, Serafin and Associates, in the River North District of Chicago. We have run campaigns of every stripe. We specialize in an area known as crisis communications, utilizing the lessons learned over those many years as a political operator. Basically, I run an ER unit for businesses, unions, and nonprofits who have been victims of communications disasters. Sometimes the injuries are self-inflicted. We have advised local, statewide, and national political figures, as well as others such as when Walmart wanted to move to Chicago, Morgan Stanley, the Carpenters Union, Ameren Power Company, Arlington International Racecourse, Dynegy, etc. But even with the biggest corporate and political clients, the relationships I've learned must be personal. A face-to-face meeting is better than a phone call. A phone call is much better than a letter. And a letter is much better than an email. I help my clients understand the sophisticated science of communications in today's world. Although I no longer do campaign work, I do stay in touch and involved. I am constantly on the air as a political analyst on TV and radio in Chicago. My longtime personal relationships with members of the media and my business partners and clients are the foundation for every success I've enjoyed. So, I guess I've told my story after all, and I hope Honest Abe's words of wisdom have not applied in my case. Today, you receive your degree from the University of Illinois. The University of Illinois. Now, that's a big deal. That's a big deal around the world. It's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to you. It's a big day today. I'm honored to be here. And as you leave the safe haven that has been your stomping ground over the past few years, and for some of you, leave your family home as well, you enter a world where you no longer have people scheduling your time and making decisions for you. There is so much in store for you, much of which you cannot even imagine now as you hit the highway into the future. With the speed of information flow, innovation, and technology, you need to constantly be reading and educating yourself. But this isn't new, it's just more accelerated. Our new age, though, will make it easy to overlook human relationships. I have been emphasizing those all afternoon now. Do not make that mistake. Do not make that mistake. Know who you are. I know who I am, and I borrowed this from Teddy Roosevelt. I am an average guy who works harder than most folks at work worth doing. You can win by living that way. I am an average guy who works harder than most folks at work worth doing. Most of you will not travel a straight road. There will be detours along the way. Not everything will work out for you. You're not going to win every issue you encounter. But if you understand you are building bridges, you win the respect of those who you encounter. And in today's world of the internet, this knowledge will travel swiftly, creating your story to the world. That's your life's signature. That wasn't the case when I was growing up. Today, your life signature is every day that you live is created. You are creating yourselves. I hope you will accept the hand that reaches out to help you. And importantly, I hope you're able to also help those hands that are extended to you. You need to keep your eyes open for those who truly see you, and open them even wider to truly see others along the way, one to one. I encourage you, every one of you, to place your faith in something much greater than yourself, whether an organized religion or a spiritual practice. Find it and let it guide you on your journey. New York Times columnist David Brooks, who is also a best-selling author, recently wrote an op-ed piece headlined, "The Moral Bucket List," a thoughtful account of his search for what makes a person good. His list really resonated with me as I considered that I would soon be standing here today trying to inspire, to encourage, and to challenge you as you take this leap from academia to the realities of life. Brooks wrote, "Commencement speakers are always telling young people to follow their passions. Be true to yourself. This is a vision of life that begins with self and ends with self. But people on the road to inner light, do not find their vocations by asking, what do I want from life? They ask, what is life asking of me? How can I match my intrinsic talent with one of the world's deep needs?" It occurred to me that there were two sets of virtues, the resume virtues and the eulogy virtues. The resume virtues are the skills you bring to the marketplace. The eulogy virtues are the ones that are talked about at your funeral whether you were kind, brave, honest, and faithful? Were you capable of deep love? How will you build your virtues? The answer to this question will develop over the course of your entire life, one person at a time. I wish all of you success, but more importantly, a joyful, meaningful, and productive life of leadership lived. Thank you.